Dr. Nari stood before the Coalition Science Council, her hands trembling slightly as she displayed her findings on the holographic projector. The council chamber was massive, designed to accommodate representatives from 50 different species. Most of them looked bored. A few were actively checking their personal devices. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Coalition for 300 years, but they were still considered the junior members. The small species, the ones who arrived late to the galactic stage with primitive technology and little to offer. The structure is located in Sector 7 of the Forbidden Zone, Nari explained, enlarging the image. The scan showed something enormous buried in an asteroid field. Based on the composition and energy signatures, I believe this is a pre-coalition human vessel. One of the lost war fleets from Earth's age of expansion. A reptilian counselor from the Vrek species made a dismissive gesture. Dr. Nari, the Forbidden Zone is called that for good reason. The radiation levels alone would destroy any expedition. Even if your readings are accurate, what value could ancient human debris possibly have? Your species barely had functional plasma drives when you joined the coalition. Nari felt her face flush. She'd spent 2 years analyzing deep space telemetry data, searching for patterns that others had missed. This discovery was real. She knew it. Counselor, the energy signature suggests the vessel is still active, not destroyed, not dead. Something inside is still functioning after all these centuries. Another counselor, this one from the aquatic Thalor species, rippled with what Nari had learned to recognize as laughter. Active? Doctor, that is impossible. The Forbidden Zone has been mapped for millennia. If there was a functioning vessel, we would have detected it long ago. I suspect you are seeing echoes from cosmic radiation, or perhaps debris from the old wars. The council dismissed her findings with a formal vote. 13 species in favor of further investigation, 37 against. Humanity's single vote was not enough. As Nari gathered her materials, she felt the familiar weight of disappointment. Humans were always dismissed this way. Too new, too primitive, too insignificant to be taken seriously. She returned to the human embassy on Coalition Station 7, a modest facility tucked away in one of the older sections. Ambassador Hyun was waiting for her in his office. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed very little. They rejected it, Hyun said. It was not a question. Unanimously, Nari replied, slumping into a chair. They think I am chasing shadows. Hyun was quiet for a moment, studying the data on his personal tablet. Nari had sent him everything before the presentation. Unlike the council, he had actually read it. All of it. What if you are right? He asked finally. What if there is a ship out there? Then it represents a piece of our history we thought was lost forever, Nari said. The age of expansion is barely documented. We know humanity spread across dozens of systems before the plague years, but most of those colonies died or lost contact. The war fleets vanished. We assumed they were destroyed in battles we have no records of. And if this ship is functional? Hyun pressed. Nari shook her head. I do not know. The energy signature is stable but low, like something in standby mode. Waiting. Hyun made a decision that would change everything. He authorized an expedition using human resources only. No coalition oversight. No formal permissions. If the council would not investigate, humanity would do it themselves. Within a week, a small exploration vessel called the Seeker departed from human space, carrying a crew of 23 people. Captain Daeho commanded the Seeker. He was a veteran of the Coalition Border Patrol, a job that mostly involved monitoring empty space and filing reports. When Admiral Jiwoo personally contacted him with orders to investigate the Forbidden Zone, Daeho knew something unusual was happening. Admirals did not call patrol captains for routine missions. The journey took 6 days through hyperspace lanes that were poorly maintained and rarely used. The Forbidden Zone earned its name from the ancient wars that had scarred this region centuries before humanity joined the coalition. Radiation storms still flared unpredictably. Asteroid fields drifted through the void, remnants of shattered planets. It was a graveyard of civilizations. Sensors are picking up the anomaly, reported Commander Bora from the tactical station. She was Daeho's second-in-command, a sharp woman who had served with him for 8 years. Adjusting course to intercept, Dr. Nari stood behind them on the bridge, unable to hide her excitement. There, do you see it? The energy signature is exactly what I detected. As the Seeker approached, the asteroid field revealed its secret. Buried among the rocks, partially obscured by debris and time, was a ship. But calling it a ship felt inadequate. It was a monster, a titan. The hull stretched over 3 kilometers long, dwarfing the Seeker completely. The design was unmistakably human, but unlike anything in the current fleet. Angular and aggressive, covered in armor plating that still gleamed despite centuries of exposure to cosmic radiation. "Mother of Earth," whispered Lieutenant Tai Yang from the helm. He was young, barely 25, and had never seen anything like this. None of them had. Engineer Minho ran every scan the Seeker possessed. "Captain, I am reading active power systems. Minimal output, but definitely active. This thing is not dead. It is sleeping." Daiho stared at the vessel through the view screen. 300 years ago, humanity built this. His ancestors. People who shared his blood and history had constructed a warship larger than anything the Coalition currently fielded. "Can we board it?" "There is a docking port on the starboard side," Bohr replied. "Standard design, though much older than current models. We should be able to establish a hard seal." The boarding party consisted of 10 people, including Daiho, Bora, Minho, Nari, and Tai Yang. They wore full environmental suits, unsure what they would find inside. The airlock cycled with a hiss and they stepped into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on automatically, dim and red, casting everything in an eerie glow. The interior corridors were vast, wide enough for vehicles to drive through. The walls were bare metal, functional rather than decorative. Every surface seemed designed for durability and efficiency. They found labels in old Earth languages, some barely readable after so long. "This way," Nari said, consulting her tablet. "The main computer core should be in the central section." They walked through empty corridors that echoed with their footsteps. Minho examined panels and interfaces along the way. "Everything is intact. No battle damage. No signs of disaster. It is like the crew just walked away and left it here." They reached the bridge after 20 minutes of walking. It was enormous, designed to coordinate large-scale operations. Command stations ringed a central platform. View screens covered the walls, all dark, and in the center, waiting patiently, was a holographic interface marked with a single word in English, Guardian. Daiho approached carefully. "Hello?" The interface lit up. A synthetic voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect English. Voice pattern recognized. "Human origin confirmed. Awaiting authorization codes." Everyone froze. Authorization codes? From 300 years ago. "I am Captain Daiho of the Coalition Vessel Seeker," he said carefully. "This ship appears to be abandoned. Can you tell us what happened here?" "This vessel is the Eternal Vigilance Dreadnought-class warship of the United Earth Defense Fleet," the AI responded. "I am Guardian Tactical Management System. The ship is not abandoned. It is in standby mode, awaiting proper authorization to resume operations." Nari stepped forward, her mind racing. "Guardian, why is the Eternal Vigilance in standby mode?" "Standing orders from Fleet Admiral Park. Dated Earth year 2247. All Dreadnought-class vessels were to be concealed in designated locations and placed in indefinite standby pending future reactivation. This protocol was implemented following the Treaty of Silence." A Treaty of Silence? Daiho had never heard of it. None of them had. "Guardian, how many Dreadnought-class vessels exist?" 37 dreadnoughts were commissioned. Current status of sister vessels unknown, due to communication blackout protocols. 37. Daiho felt dizzy. 37 ships this size hidden across the galaxy for 3 centuries. Before he could ask more questions, Bora's communicator chirped urgently. "Captain, we have a problem. Coalition sensors have detected our position. They are demanding we leave the Forbidden Zone immediately." "Tell them we need more time," Daiho started to say, but Bora cut him off. "That is not the problem, sir. 3 Dominion warships just entered the sector. They are on an intercept course. ETA 15 minutes, the Dominion Empire. Aggressive, expansionist, and hostile to the Coalition. 3 of their warships would tear the Seeker apart in seconds." Daiho looked at the interface, at the sleeping giant around him, and made a choice that would echo across the galaxy. "Guardian, how do I reactivate this vessel?" "Command authorization required. Please state your name, rank, and authorization code." "I do not have an authorization code. No one does. They are 300 years old. Emergency protocols allow for manual override in the absence of proper codes. Do you wish to assume command of the Eternal Vigilance?" Through the view screen, Daiho could see distant points of light growing brighter. The Dominion ships. Coming fast. The transformation happened in seconds. The eternal vigilance shed 3 centuries of silence like a predator opening its eyes. Power surged through conduits that had waited patiently for this moment. Across the massive hull, weapons systems performed self-diagnostics. Armor plating adjusted its molecular structure. Shield generators hummed with building energy. On the bridge, Captain Deho watched in amazement as holographic displays materialized around him. Tactical information flooded the screens. Ship status, weapon readouts, power distribution, and most importantly, 3 red icons representing the incoming Dominion warships. Guardian, how long until those ships are in weapon range? Deho asked. Dominion vessels will achieve firing position in 8 minutes. The AI replied calmly. They are Dominator-class cruisers. Heavy weapons platforms designed for ship-to-ship combat. Current Coalition intelligence rates them as highly dangerous. Commander Bora moved to the tactical station without being asked. The interface recognized her human touch and adapted instantly. Captain, I have weapon control. This is incredible. The systems are old but sophisticated. I am reading mass accelerators, plasma lance batteries, and something called kinetic kill systems. Can we fight them? Deho asked. Sir, we have 56 primary weapon mounts and over 200-point defense systems, Bora said, her voice filled with disbelief. A single Coalition cruiser has maybe 12 primary weapons. This ship is not a warship. It is a fleet killer. Engineer Minho was already at work, his fingers flying across the engineering console. Captain, the power systems are stable. Reactors are at 40% capacity and climbing. This vessel can operate with minimal crew. Everything is automated. I think 50 people could run this entire ship. Dr. Nari stood beside Deho, watching the Dominion ships approach. They do not know what they are facing. They see our small exploration vessel. They probably think we are easy prey. Guardian, open a communication channel to the Seeker, Deho ordered. Get our people back on board our ship immediately. The exploration vessel was still docked to the Eternal Vigilance. The remaining 13 crew members scrambled to return. Deho watched the timer tick down. 6 minutes, 5 minutes. The Seeker detached and moved to a safe distance, taking cover behind a large asteroid. Lieutenant Taeyang had stayed on the Dreadnought, fascinated by the helm controls. Sir, I can fly this thing. The interface is old but straightforward. Thrusters responding. This ship moves like a dancer despite its size. Science Officer Yuna was the last member of the boarding party. She had been exploring the computer systems, trying to access historical records. Now she looked pale. Captain, I translated some of the old files. This ship was part of Earth's expansion fleet. We were not always peaceful. Before we joined the Coalition, humanity fought wars across multiple systems. The Dreadnoughts were built to win those wars. To win decisively. How decisively? Deho asked, though he suspected he already knew. The Eternal Vigilance participated in 43 major engagements before being placed in standby mode. It never lost a battle. Average engagement time was 90 seconds. 90 seconds. Deho felt cold. What kind of weapon could destroy entire enemy fleets in 90 seconds? Dominion vessels entering weapon range, Guardian announced. They are charging weapons, targeting our position and the Seeker. Hail them, Deho ordered. Tell them we are a Coalition research vessel. We do not want conflict. Bora opened the channel. The response came immediately. The Dominion commander was a harsh voice filled with contempt. Human vessel, you have entered a disputed sector. Your presence violates Dominion territorial claims. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. This sector is neutral space, Deho replied. We are conducting legitimate scientific research. There is no reason for hostility. Dominion does not recognize Coalition authority in this region. You have 30 seconds to power down your vessel. Deho looked at his crew. They were researchers and explorers, not warriors. But the Dominion did not care. They saw weakness and moved to exploit it. That was their nature. He had seen it before during his patrol years. Dominion forces did not negotiate. They took what they wanted. Guardian, can we disable their ships without destroying them? Deho asked. Negative. Dominion vessels are heavily armored and redundant systems make precision disabling difficult. I can attempt to target engines only, but this reduces combat effectiveness by 63%. 30 seconds became 20. Then 10. The Dominion ships opened fire. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked across the void. They targeted the Seeker first, the smaller and apparently more vulnerable target. Deho watched 12 people die. The Seeker's shields collapsed under the barrage. The hull ruptured. Escape pods launched, but 2 were destroyed before they cleared the blast zone. 12 lives. 12 human beings who had families waiting for them. 12 people under his ultimate command as the ranking officer. Something changed in Daeho's expression. The last remnant of hesitation vanished. He turned to Bora. Destroy them, sir. All weapons free. Destroy those ships now. Bora did not hesitate. Her hands moved across the tactical controls. The eternal vigilance responded like it had been waiting for this moment. 300 years of sleep ended in fire. The Dreadnought's main weapons were mass accelerators, magnetic rails that launched projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. Bora fired 6 rounds in 2 seconds. The projectiles crossed the distance almost instantaneously. 3 Dominion cruisers. 6 shots. 2 shots per target. The first cruiser exploded, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was a functional warship. The next it was expanding debris. The mass accelerator rounds punched through shields like they were not there, through armor like it was paper, and detonated the reactor core. The second cruiser tried to evade. Its captain realized something was terribly wrong. But the Dreadnought's targeting systems had been designed to track entire fleets. A single ship maneuvering was trivial. 2 more rounds. Another explosion. The third cruiser managed to fire back. Its plasma weapon struck the Eternal Vigilance's shields. The barrier absorbed the impact without even flickering. Guardian reported shield strength at 98%. The Dominion ship's most powerful weapons had done essentially nothing. Bora fired the plasma lance batteries. These were different from the mass accelerators. Beams of superheated plasma capable of cutting through starship hulls. The third cruiser's shields collapsed. Its armor melted. The ship broke apart, venting atmosphere and bodies into space. Silence filled the bridge. From the first shot to the last, 87 seconds had passed. Targets destroyed, Bora reported quietly. Scanning for survivors. There were a few. Escape pods drifting in the debris field. Daeho ordered them collected. Even now, he would not leave people to die in space. But his hands were shaking. The power he had just unleashed terrified him. 3 modern warships destroyed so easily they might as well have been unarmed transports. Guardian, how many ships like this did humanity build? Daeho asked. 37 Dreadnought-class vessels. Additionally, Earth constructed 143 heavy cruisers, 407 destroyers, and over 2,000 support vessels during the Age of Expansion. All were hidden or decommissioned under the Treaty of Silence. Yuna was pulling up the treaty document. She read it aloud, her voice shaking. Following the plague years and the Great Dying, humanity agrees to conceal military capabilities and join the Galactic Coalition as an equal partner rather than a dominant power. All war fleets will be hidden in designated locations. Military technology will be restricted. Humanity will present itself as a peaceful developing species. Why? Bora asked. Why would we hide our strength? Because we were terrified of ourselves, Yuna replied. According to these records, the wars before the Coalition were brutal. Humanity nearly destroyed itself. When we finally achieved peace, we decided the best way to preserve it was to make sure no one saw us as a threat, including ourselves. Daeho sat in the command chair, feeling the weight of history pressing down on him. His ancestors had built weapons of terrible power and then deliberately hidden them away. For 300 years, humanity had played the role of the small, weak species, and it had been a lie, a carefully maintained deception. Sir, we have incoming communications, Bora said. Coalition emergency channels. High Counselor Vexthar is demanding immediate contact. Daeho was not surprised. The battle had been brief but spectacular. Coalition sensors across the sector would have detected the energy signatures. They would have seen a human vessel destroy 3 Dominion cruisers in less than 2 minutes. He opened the channel. Vexthar's face appeared on the main screen. The counselor was a tall, mantis-like being with compound eyes that glittered with what looked like anger. Captain Daeho, you will explain this incident immediately. What is that vessel? Where did it come from? How do humans possess such weapons? Counselor, we were attacked by Dominion forces without provocation, Daeho replied calmly. We defended ourselves. Defended? Vexthar's voice rose. You annihilated 3 warships in seconds. This technology is beyond anything humanity has revealed to the Coalition. This is a violation of membership treaties. You will surrender that vessel to Coalition authority immediately. The journey back to human space took 3 days. During that time, Captain Daeho ordered complete system diagnostics while the crew explored the Eternal Vigilance. What they discovered changed everything they thought they knew about humanity's past. Dr. Nari spent hours in the ship's historical archives. The databanks contained detailed records from the Age of Expansion, an era that had been almost completely erased from modern human memory. She sat in the archive room, surrounded by holographic displays showing battle reports, diplomatic correspondence, and technical specifications. Her hands trembled as she read. "This is impossible," she whispered, but the evidence was undeniable. 300 years ago, humanity had been powerful, not developing, not primitive, powerful. They had controlled 42 systems, commanded thousands of warships, and were considered one of the dominant military forces in the galaxy. Other species had not welcomed humanity to the coalition. They had feared them. The plague years changed everything. A biological weapon of unknown origin swept through human space. Billions died. Entire colonies were lost. Industrial capacity collapsed. The great war fleets fell silent as resources were diverted to survival. Humanity teetered on the edge of extinction. But humans did something unexpected. Instead of using their remaining military power to take what they needed from other species, they chose peace. They negotiated entry into the Galactic Coalition as apparent equals. They hid their war fleets. They deliberately presented themselves as weak and recovering. Why? Nari found the answer in a personal log from Fleet Admiral Park, the woman who commanded Earth's forces during the transition. The log entry was dated 1 week before the Treaty of Silence was signed. "We have a choice," Admiral Park wrote. "We can use our weapons to survive. We can take resources from other worlds. We can dominate through fear. But if we do that, we become the monsters we fought against. We prove that humanity's greatest strength is violence. I refuse to accept that. We will hide our power. We will join the coalition as partners, not conquerors. And maybe in time we will prove that humanity's true strength is not our weapons but our choice not to use them." Nari wept as she read those words. 300 years ago, humanity had chosen compassion over survival. They gambled everything on the hope that peace was possible. And they won that gamble. Humanity recovered. They prospered. But the cost was that modern humans forgot who they had been. Engineer Minho made his own discoveries in the ship's systems. The Dreadnought was not unique. Guardian provided coordinates for 6 more vessels hidden in various locations across the sector. 6 more sleeping giants waiting for activation. But the real shock came when Minho accessed the shipyard databases. "Captain, you need to see this," Minho said, his voice tight with tension. Deho joined him in the engineering bay. Minho displayed a star map showing human industrial facilities, shipyards, construction platforms, resource stations. Most were listed as decommissioned or abandoned. "These facilities still exist," Minho explained. "They are hidden, but they are maintained by automated systems. Some have been producing components and storing them for 3 centuries. If we reactivated the shipyards, we could build new vessels using the old designs." "How many ships could we build?" Deho asked. Minho swallowed hard. "Based on available resources and production capacity? Thousands. We could rebuild the entire fleet in less than 5 years." The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just hidden weapons. They had preserved the ability to become a military superpower again at any time they chose. Commander Bora focused on tactical analysis. She studied the Dreadnought's combat systems and compared them to modern coalition warships. The results were disturbing. A single Dreadnought could engage 50 contemporary cruisers simultaneously and win. The weapons were too powerful. The armor too strong. The shields too resilient. How did our ancestors build this? Bora wondered aloud. The technology is 300 years old, but it is superior to anything the coalition fields today. Science Officer Yuna had an answer. Because humanity was at war. Real war. Total war. Modern coalition species have been at peace for generations. They do not build weapons to win wars. They build weapons to deter conflicts. There is a difference. Lieutenant Taeyang discovered something else. The Dreadnoughts could link together. Their tactical systems were designed to network, sharing targeting data and strategic coordination. 7 Dreadnoughts acting together would not fight as 7 ships. They would fight as a single entity with 7 bodies. Guardian called it the Fleet Consciousness Protocol. "It is beautiful," Taeyang said, studying the protocol specifications. "Whoever designed this understood warfare at a level I cannot even comprehend. They built these ships to face impossible odds and win anyway. As they approached human space, Ambassador Hyun contacted the Eternal Vigilance. He had been busy in their absence. The encounter with the Dominion ships had been reported to Coalition leadership. Vexthar had indeed called for humanity's expulsion, but the vote had not gone as expected. 13 species voted to expel us, Hyun reported. 13 voted to investigate further. 24 abstained. That is not enough to expel us? Daeho asked. No. Coalition charter requires a 2/3 majority for expulsion. We survived. Barely. But surviving the vote was only the beginning. The galaxy now knew humanity possessed advanced military technology. Questions were being asked. How much more had humans hidden? What else were they capable of? Some species felt betrayed. Others felt relieved. A few, like the aquatic Thaler, openly stated they had always suspected humanity was more dangerous than they appeared. Dr. Nari prepared a comprehensive report for Coalition leadership. She included historical records, technical specifications, and most importantly, the reasoning behind the Treaty of Silence. She wanted the galaxy to understand that humanity had chosen peace, not stumbled into it. The report was broadcast on open channels. Within hours, every species in the Coalition had access to the truth. Humanity's secret was revealed. The response was mixed. Some praised the restraint. Others condemned the deception. Debates raged in council chambers across Coalition space. But while the politicians argued, something more immediate was developing. Dominion intelligence had analyzed the battle in the Forbidden Zone. War Marshal Kroven became obsessed with the Dreadnought. He wanted that technology. He wanted those weapons. And he was willing to go to war to get them. The Dominion Empire had been testing Coalition defenses for years. Small raids, border disputes, probing attacks to measure response times and capabilities. Kroven saw the political chaos within the Coalition and recognized opportunity. If he struck now while the member species were divided and arguing about humanity, he could achieve significant victories before they organized a response. He assembled a fleet, 200 warships, the largest Dominion force mobilized in decades. His target was the Threshold Gate, a strategic jump point that provided access to 12 Coalition systems. If he controlled that gate, he could cut off entire sectors. Coalition intelligence detected the buildup but was slow to respond. High Counselor Vexthar was still focused on the human question. Should they trust humanity? Should they demand the dreadnoughts be surrendered? The internal debate consumed attention that should have been directed at the external threat. Admiral Jiwoo saw what was coming. She was the head of Human Defense Forces, a quiet woman in her 60s who had spent her entire career preparing for situations she hoped would never occur. When Daeho's report reached her, she began emergency recall of retired military personnel. Across human worlds, messages went out to veterans. Men and women who had served in various roles during peacetime received activation codes. Most were confused. Some were frightened. But they responded. They gathered at designated coordinates, waiting for orders that made no sense. Jiwoo also sent teams to the 6 other dreadnought locations. The ships needed crews, captains who understood what they were awakening. The activation protocols were ancient, but Guardian systems recognized human authorization. One by one, the sleeping giants woke up. The Eternal Vigilance reached Earth space and docked at the largest human facility, Unity Station. Captain Daeho disembarked to find Admiral Jiwoo waiting for him. She looked tired but determined. "You started something, Captain," she said simply. "Now we need to finish it." "Finish what?" Daeho asked. "The Dominion is moving. 200 ships heading for the Threshold Gate. Coalition forces in that sector number maybe 30 vessels. They will be destroyed within hours. What does that have to do with us?" Jiwoo looked at him steadily. "High Counselor Vexthar just contacted me. The Coalition cannot stop the Dominion assault. Their fleets are scattered and their response is too slow." He asked if humanity would help. He asked if we would defend the Coalition. Daeho understood. This was the moment. The choice his ancestors had delayed for 3 centuries. Would humanity use its power? Would they step back into the role they had abandoned? "What did you tell him?" Daeho asked. "I told him I would ask our people," Jiwoo replied. "This cannot be a military decision. This is a decision about who we are." A general broadcast was sent to all human worlds. The question was simple. The Galactic Coalition needed help. People were going to die unless someone intervened. The recall went out to every human world simultaneously. A simple message appeared on personal devices, public displays, and military channels. This is Admiral Jiwoo. Activation Protocol 7 is now in effect. All retired military personnel report to designated assembly points. This is not a drill. On a farming colony in the Outer Territories, a man named Kangman was harvesting grain when his old military communicator activated for the first time in 20 years. He stood in his field, dirt on his hands, and stared at the device. He had been a tactical officer once. He had trained on systems most people thought were obsolete. Now those systems were needed again. Across human space, similar scenes played out. An engineer named Soman left her civilian job designing habitat modules. A pilot named Jaewon abandoned his commercial freight route. A weapons specialist named Yunha stopped teaching history and dug her old uniform out of storage. They were veterans, the old guard. People who knew things modern humanity had tried to forget. They gathered at assembly points, hundreds of them, and found transport ships waiting. No explanations were given, just coordinates and departure times. The ships took them to locations marked only as classified on navigation charts. When they arrived, they understood. The dreadnoughts were awake. All 7 of them. Massive warships hanging in space like sleeping gods that had opened their eyes. The eternal vigilance was there. So were the Unbroken Dawn, the Final Horizon, the Silent Thunder, the Crimson Shield, the Eternal Watch, and the Last Guardian. Names from history. Names that had once made enemy fleets retreat without firing a shot. The veterans wept. Many of them had never seen a dreadnought before, but they knew what they represented. The old days. The time when humanity was powerful and terrifying. They had been taught that those days were shameful. That humanity had been brutal and violent. But looking at these ships, they felt something else. Pride. These vessels proved that humanity could build greatness when necessary. Captain Daeho met with the other dreadnought commanders on Unity Station. 6 captains stood with him, each chosen by Admiral Jiwoo for their experience and judgment. They were older than Daeho, veterans who remembered when human military doctrine was about winning wars, not just deterring them. Captain Suho commanded the Unbroken Dawn. He was in his 60s with gray hair and scars on his hands from years of service. "I never thought I would command a ship like this," he said quietly. "I trained on them, studied them, but I thought they would sleep forever." "None of us expected this," Daeho replied, "but here we are." Commander Bora had been temporarily promoted to captain and given command of the Final Horizon. She was the youngest of the group, but had proven herself during the engagement with the Dominion Scouts. Engineer Minho served as her chief engineer. Lieutenant Taeyang transferred to her crew as primary helmsman. The other captains were equally qualified. Captain Mion commanded the Silent Thunder and specialized in long-range engagement tactics. Captain Jiho led the Crimson Shield and had studied defensive warfare for 30 years. Captain Xianwu took the Eternal Watch. Captain Inha commanded the Last Guardian. 7 captains, 7 dreadnoughts, crews totaling just over 300 people. Against 200 Dominion warships crewed by thousands, Admiral Jiwoo briefed them personally. War Marshal Croven is moving toward the threshold gate. He has overwhelming numerical superiority and modern weapons. Coalition forces in that sector are minimal. If he takes the gate, 12 systems fall under Dominion control. Millions of people will die or be enslaved. "What are our rules of engagement?" Captain Suho asked. "Stop them," Jiwoo said simply. "Use whatever force is necessary. The coalition has authorized full military response." No restrictions, Daeho felt cold. No restrictions meant total war. The kind of warfare these ships were designed for. "Admiral, if we do this, we cannot hide anymore. The galaxy will see what humanity is capable of." "I know," Jiwoo replied, "but people are going to die if we do nothing. That matters more than secrets." The dreadnoughts departed together, forming Task Force Vigilance. They moved through hyperspace along routes that had not been traveled in centuries. The ships networked their systems together, activating the Fleet Consciousness Protocol. Guardian units on each vessel synchronized, creating a unified tactical awareness. It was beautiful and terrifying. 7 individual ships thinking as one, sharing targeting data instantaneously, coordinating movements with perfect precision. This was what the dreadnoughts had been designed to do. Not fight alone, fight together as a single overwhelming force. The journey took 2 days. During that time, Daeho drilled his crew constantly. They practiced formations, tested weapons, ran combat simulations. The dreadnoughts had been asleep for 300 years, but their crews needed to be sharp. Dr. Nari and Science Officer Yuna worked together, analyzing Dominion fleet composition. 200 ships sounded like a lot, but many were support vessels, transports, supply ships. Only about 70 were actual combat vessels. Still overwhelming odds, but not impossible. The Dominion relies on numerical superiority and aggressive tactics, Yuna explained during a briefing. They swarm targets and overwhelm shields through sustained fire. Their ships are tough but not particularly sophisticated. Can we defeat them? Captain Mion asked. If we fight smart, yes, Yuna replied. The dreadnoughts were designed to face multiple targets simultaneously. Our weapons have longer range and higher accuracy. We can engage from distances where they cannot effectively return fire. What about their fighters? Captain Jiho asked. Intelligence reports indicate they carry significant strike craft. Point defense systems, Bora replied. She had studied the dreadnought weapons extensively. Each ship has over 200 automated defense turrets. Fighter craft cannot get close without being destroyed. The task force reached the threshold gate 12 hours before the Dominion fleet was scheduled to arrive. Coalition forces were already there. 30 vessels representing various member species. They looked confused and frightened when the dreadnoughts appeared. High Counselor Vexthar contacted Deho personally. The mantis-like being appeared on the view screen looking exhausted. Captain, thank you for coming. I will not pretend the Coalition treated humanity well during this crisis. We were suspicious when we should have been grateful. Save the politics for later, Counselor, Deho replied. Where do you want us? The gate itself must be protected at all costs. Position your vessels there. We will support as able. Deho positioned the 7 dreadnoughts in a defensive formation around the threshold gate. Coalition forces took secondary positions. Everyone waited. Sensors watched hyperspace exit points. The Dominion fleet would arrive soon. War Marshal Croven was confident as his fleet prepared to drop out of hyperspace. 200 ships. Overwhelming force. The Coalition could not stop him. He had studied their deployments, calculated their response times. This would be a quick victory. He would take the gate, secure the systems beyond, and force the Coalition to negotiate from a position of weakness. His fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Capital ships in front, cruisers flanking, destroyers screening, support vessels in the rear, a textbook military deployment. Croven smiled. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. Then his sensors registered the dreadnoughts. What are those? His tactical officer asked. The displays showed 7 massive contacts, larger than anything in the Dominion database. Power signatures off the scale. Weapon systems the computer could not fully identify. They sat in formation around the gate like ancient guardians. Human vessels, Croven said slowly. The ones from the reports. I thought there was only one. Sir, should we proceed? His tactical officer asked nervously. Croven studied the tactical display. 7 ships against 200. The numbers favored him heavily. Whatever weapons those human vessels possessed, they could not engage his entire fleet simultaneously. Numerical superiority would win. It always did. All ships advance, Croven ordered. Battle formation. Prepare to engage. On the Eternal Vigilance, Deho watched the Dominion fleet approach. 200 ships moving in coordinated formation. It was impressive. Intimidating even, but he had run the simulations. Studied the tactical analysis. He knew what the dreadnoughts could do. Guardian, activate Fleet Consciousness Protocol, Deho ordered. All ships network fire control. Tactical overview to all captains. The 7 dreadnoughts linked together, their targeting systems synchronized. The combined computing power analyzed the entire Dominion fleet instantaneously. Every ship was assessed. Threat levels calculated. Optimal firing solutions generated. The dreadnoughts did not see 200 individual targets. They saw 200 components of a single problem, and they knew how to solve it. Fleet consciousness active, Guardian reported. All vessels synchronized, awaiting firing command. Deho opened a channel to the Dominion fleet. War Marshal Croven, you are in violation of Coalition space. Withdraw immediately or we will be forced to engage. Croven's reply was filled with contempt. Human captain, you are outnumbered 30 to 1. Stand aside or be destroyed. You were warned, Deho said quietly. He closed the channel. All ships weapons free. Execute Battle Plan Alpha. The dreadnoughts opened fire. The debris field around the threshold gate stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Twisted metal, shattered hulls. The remains of 170 Dominion warships drifted in silent testimony to what had happened here. Coalition rescue vessels moved through the wreckage, searching for survivors. There were not many. Captain Deho stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance watching the rescue operations. His crew worked quietly around him. They had won a total victory, but no one celebrated. They had killed thousands of people in 93 minutes. The efficiency of it made him feel cold inside. "Sir, High Counselor Vexthar is requesting permission to come aboard," Commander Bora reported. Deho nodded. "Grant permission." The coalition leader arrived an hour later with a small delegation of representatives from various species. They walked through the Dreadnought's corridors in silence, staring at everything. The scale of the vessel impressed them. The weapon systems terrified them. This was power beyond anything they had imagined. Vexthar met Deho in the main conference room. The counselor looked different now, less arrogant, more thoughtful. He had watched the battle from a safe distance, seen what humanity was capable of when they stopped hiding. "Captain Deho, the Coalition owes humanity a debt," Vexthar said formally. "You saved millions of lives today. 12 systems remained free because of your actions." "We did what was necessary," Deho replied. "Nothing more." "I think we both know it was much more than that." Vexthar gestured at the ship around them. "This vessel. The others like it. Your people have been hiding their true capabilities for 300 years. Why? Because we were afraid," Deho said honestly. "Not of you. Of ourselves. Our ancestors built weapons that could destroy civilizations. They used those weapons. And then they looked at what they had become and decided to change." Dr. Nari had prepared a full presentation for the Coalition Council. She stood now and activated a holographic display. Images appeared showing humanity's history. The Age of Expansion, the wars, the Plague Years, the Treaty of Silence. After the plague, humanity had a choice, Nari explained. We could use our remaining military power to survive by taking from others. Or we could join the Coalition as equals and rebuild through cooperation. We chose peace. But we kept the weapons hidden in case they were ever needed again. A Thaler representative spoke up. His aquatic species had always been suspicious of humanity. "So you lied to us. For 3 centuries you pretended to be weak while secretly maintaining the most powerful military force in Coalition space." "Yes," Deho admitted. "We lied. But ask yourself this. Would you have trusted us if you knew the truth? Would the Coalition have accepted humanity as equals if they knew we could destroy any member species that opposed us?" The room fell silent. The answer was obvious, no. The Coalition would have feared humanity, restricted them, possibly even tried to destroy the war fleets before they became a threat. The deception had been necessary for peace to exist. "What happens now?" asked of Rex Counselor. "You have revealed your power. The galaxy knows what you are capable of. Some species will demand you disarm. Others will seek to ally with you out of fear. The political situation has become very complicated. That is why we are offering a proposal," Ambassador Hyun said, entering the discussion. He had been waiting for this moment. "Humanity will maintain the Dreadnought fleet as the Coalition's strategic reserve. We will activate the vessels only for existential threats to Coalition security. In exchange, we ask for nothing. No territory, no tribute, no special privileges, just the right to exist as equal partners." Vexthar studied the human delegation carefully. "You would trust us with this power? Place your most potent weapons under Coalition authority?" "No," Teho corrected. "The weapons remain under human authority, but we will use them to defend the Coalition. You have our word." "And what is humanity's word worth?" the Thalor representative demanded. "You have already proven you will lie when it suits you." Engineer Minho stood up. He had been quiet until now, but he had something to say. 300 years ago, humanity had the power to conquer this entire region of space. We chose not to. We hid our weapons and worked as equals alongside species that treated us as inferiors. We endured mockery and dismissal because we believed peace was worth the price. That is what humanity's word is worth. The debate continued for hours. Some species were grateful. Others remained suspicious. But one fact was undeniable. Humanity had saved the Coalition. Without the Dreadnoughts, the Dominion would have taken the Threshold Gate. The invasion would have succeeded. Millions would have died or been enslaved. War Marshal Croven sat in a detention cell aboard Unity Station. He had been interrogated extensively. Everything he knew about Dominion military capabilities was now known to Coalition intelligence. But what haunted him was not his capture or his defeat. It was the realization of what humanity had done. Captain Suho visited him personally. The older captain sat across from the war marshal in silence for several minutes before speaking. "You thought you understood warfare," Suho said finally. "You studied tactics, trained your forces, built an impressive fleet, and you lost in 93 minutes to 7 ships. Do you know why?" Kroven said nothing. "Because you fight to win battles," Suho continued. "Humanity built the dreadnoughts to win wars. Total wars. Wars where losing means extinction. Every system on those ships was designed by people who understood that failure meant their species would cease to exist. That is why you could not win. You were fighting a battle. We were fighting for survival. Then why did you stop?" Kroven asked. "If you are so powerful, why hide? Why not rule?" "Because ruling requires cruelty," Suho replied. "And we decided we did not want to be cruel anymore. We wanted to be better than our worst capabilities." The interview was broadcast to Dominion leadership. The Empire's response was swift. They sued for peace unconditionally. The fleet losses had been catastrophic. More importantly, Dominion analysts realized that humanity had been holding back. Task Force Vigilance used only 7 dreadnoughts. Intelligence reports suggested 30 more existed. The thought of facing that kind of power again terrified them. Other aggressive powers across the galaxy received the message. Territorial disputes suddenly became negotiable. Border raids stopped. Species that had been considering military expansion reconsidered their plans. Humanity had proven something important. Attacking the Coalition would result in overwhelming retaliation. Back on Earth, Admiral Jiwoo held a press conference. Billions of humans watched as she explained what had happened. The hidden fleets, the ancient weapons, the choice their ancestors had made 300 years ago. Public reaction was mixed. Some people were proud. Others felt betrayed that such important history had been concealed. "Our ancestors made a difficult choice," Jiwoo said during the conference. "They chose to hide our strength so we could build genuine friendships instead of alliances based on fear. Was it the right choice? I do not know. But it worked. We have lived in peace for 3 centuries. That peace was purchased with secrecy. Now the secret is revealed. What happens next is up to all of us." The Galactic Coalition Council met in emergency session. 200 species representatives debated humanity's proposal. The discussion lasted 3 days. Finally, a vote was called. The result was 147 in favor, 31 opposed, 22 abstaining. The proposal passed. Humanity would maintain task force vigilance as the Coalition's strategic reserve. The dreadnoughts would return to hidden berths but remain ready for activation. A new treaty was drafted, formally recognizing humanity's role as protector, while guaranteeing they would not use that power for conquest or intimidation. High Counselor Vexthar signed the treaty personally. "I admit I was wrong about humanity," he said during the signing ceremony. "I thought you were weak. I thought you needed our protection. The truth is more complicated. You were always strong. You simply chose to hide that strength for our sake as much as your own." 6 months after the Battle of Threshold Gate, Captain Deho stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance one last time. The dreadnought was returning to its hiding place in the Forbidden Zone. The crew was being reassigned to regular duties. The great warship would sleep again, waiting patiently for the day it might be needed. "Guardian, begin standby protocols," Deho ordered. "Confirmed, Captain," the AI replied. "Shall I maintain current threat assessment parameters?" "Yes, monitor Coalition security. If another existential threat emerges, begin reactivation sequence automatically." "Understood. It has been an honor serving under your command, Captain." Deho smiled. "The honor was mine." The lights began to dim. Systems powered down one by one. The great engines fell silent. Within an hour, the Eternal Vigilance was dormant again, just another piece of debris in the Forbidden Zone, invisible to casual sensors. Waiting. Commander Bora joined Deho in the shuttle bay as they prepared to depart. "Do you think we will ever need to wake them again?" she asked. "I hope not," Deho replied. "But if we do, they will be ready." The shuttle departed, leaving the dreadnought behind. Across the sector, 6 other vessels entered standby mode. The old guard returned to sleep. The ancient weapons were hidden once more. But now the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity was not weak.